Hey there! Welcome to the Flute 360 podcast. I'm Dr. Heidi K. Begay, and I'm a flutist, educator, coach, and podcaster. My God-given mission is to serve you. I am passionate about guiding you, the modern-day flutist, to discover your unique voice on and off the stage. The goal of this podcast is to help you thrive, both as an artist and as a musicpreneur. Go ahead and grab some espresso, your favorite notepad, and let's get to it. Today's episode 238 is titled, Let's Talk Music Business with Dr. Fabiana Claure. Hey, flute friend. Before we dive into the conversation today with Dr. Fabiana Claure, I want to bring your attention to two upcoming events. As you know, Flute 360 is partnering with the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company this year, and she has two fantastic flute opportunities for you and for your studio. So grab a pencil and paper and jot down these dates. Saturday, April 1st and Sunday, April 2nd, 2023, she is hosting a wonderful music opportunity for the community so that way you can play for Ian Clark. Not only that, but there are opportunities to listen to Ian talk about his music through the workshop Demystifying Ian Clark's Music. Also, there are master classes and recitals for you to attend as well. If you want all the details, go to fluteforyou.com. That's fluteforyou.com and type in Ian Clark. There you will see the details for the Saturday and Sunday sessions. Enjoy!
Good to see you. Hello.
Hi, Fabiana. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
Good. No complaints. Life is great.
Yes. Look at you with your setup. You're so professional. I love it.
I know. Well, my audio engineer husband wouldn't want it any other way.
Oh, that's so amazing. You've got an insider. That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. I would not be in episode 230 range with Flute 360 if it weren't for him. Literally, he's like the backbone of this production.
Good for you. Good for you, Heidi. Well, I'm so excited we have this conversation. I'm so glad to, anything I can do to contribute to your audience and your community, it will be my absolute pleasure.
Oh my goodness. The fact that you have carved out time for us and the fact that you are an expert in this field. I cannot wait to pick your brain, and it's going to be wonderful because I cannot wait to learn from you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And of course, I look forward to learning from you as well, and all the things that you're doing.
So for the listeners out there, you need to know that Fabiana is a force within this musicpreneur community, and she's a pianist and an educator, a coach. And she and I crossed paths because of the Ultimate Music Business Summit, something that I'm very proud of, something that I put together with Arthur and Garrett every year. And so this conversation is for the modern day flutist and to really help you navigate your musical path where you are right now. But this conversation, Fabiana, I'm sure you recognize this super clearly, that this conversation could easily be found on the Pivoting Musicians podcast as well. So I will try to make sure that I'm very clear for flutists to know that they feel seen and heard. And I want to bring to the table some of these conversations that my Flute 360ers are telling me. They're telling me these pain points, they're sharing these hurdles. And one of them includes this notion of how to create new opportunities for myself. This is something that really pains my Flute 360ers. And because I see you, Fabiana, as somebody who is an action taker, a go-getter, how do you create new opportunities for yourself and for your career?
I believe the key in creating new opportunities is unifying our brand. It's really defining how can we serve through the collection of everything we've done and create a strategic way of defining the value that we provide in the work that we do. When we think about creating opportunities, oftentimes I see musicians try to create different opportunities. Although I understand the value of diversification and income streams, when it comes to establishing yourself and kind of breaking the ice in your like industry, in your niche, less is more. Meaning being able to consolidate what it is that you stand for and clearly articulate that in a way that people can associate you with a specific specialty,
Mm.
I think is one of the keys in being able to create these opportunities. Because once you establish yourself and people get, okay, here's who you are, this is what you do, here's how you help, then you can establish that baseline identity, and then you can continue to create more products, more services, more offers, because you have that a foundation of clarity. Not only clarity for your audience, but clarity for yourself. Does that make sense?
Oh, completely. The way that you were painting that picture, I saw a spider web. I saw like that middle of the core of the spider web being really laid out, really intricate, really webbed together beautifully. And then from there, the rest of the layers, the rest of the threads can offshoot from that core.
Exactly. I love that analogy actually. Because that's the whole point. And I think oftentimes for musicians, we're going around it the other way around. Like we think we'll just do this on this side, and maybe have like a website for this, and then another website for that, and an offer for this type of ideal client, and then an offer for that type of ideal client. And inadvertently, that dilutes our energy and our attention, and we get to a place of burnout because we're spread too thin.
Mm.
So while I understand, as I said earlier, the potential of having a value ladder and having multiple offers for different price points, different ways of doing that, there needs to be an order of events. Their order is what matters in order to be successful. And when I've seen, musicians like follow this strategy of like first consolidate, simplify before you amplify, everything else makes more sense. All the tactics that you see online, all the things you see people do, the things you're learning about, they can work once you've kind of come home first and you've established a base. Does that make sense?
Oh, completely. So, did you get into this line of work because of the trajectory of your career? I kind of went right into picking your brain, but I want to take a step back and feel free to tell the listeners a little bit about your story, your background, anything that you would like to share. And I think, and I don't want to assume, but I think that the work that you are doing now, Fabiana, is probably because of your musical and your musicpreneur path, correct? So you're a pianist and you have your doctorate and then you have a studio and then now you're doing this coaching work and helping musicians simplify and everything that you just said beautifully.
Yes, absolutely. My trajectory has been one where for most of my life, I was trained as a classical pianist, a concert pianist. And culminating in my doctorate degree, I started learning about the business side of music, taking some courses. Fortunately, I was at a university that was really groundbreaking in the sense that they had these courses available for music students, which, as you know, is not that common. And so I was able to make use of that. And then not only that, but also get out of the music school and learn from the business school and talk to mentors who were there as part of an incubator program that the university had. And so I also was able to not just learn from the music program, but also from the business program and do events and participate in business plan competitions and work with like venture capitalists and investors and people who were trying to help foster entrepreneurial spirit in the university. And that allowed my husband and I, who were both pianists, to really learn by putting ourselves completely out of our comfort zone, Heidi, and
Hmm.
doing things that we would have never done if we wouldn't have just ventured out of just being in the music school. And so within a few months of starting to kind of learn about the business side of things and working with people from the business world, we were able to present a plan to build a business, a music school, and launch the school after winning multiple awards and getting people interested in supporting us, and start that school back in 2011, which is now called Superior Academy of Music. And we jumped into becoming entrepreneurs from like night and day, in the sense of like we'd never really run a business of that magnitude. We signed a commercial lease, we rented a space in a brick and mortar facility, invested, over $200,000 in getting equipments, pianos, booths. I mean, we invested everything we had and didn't have, borrowed money. Like we did all the things to get this business off the ground. We went all in, right? And we needed to learn by fire because we had to. We had no
Mm.
backup plan. And so that is what really gave us this first experience of what it is to run a business. But after 5 years of running the business and getting to a place of success, but also burnout, because we were doing all of the things in the business from teaching piano 5, 6, 7 hours a day, recruiting clients, managing the business, marketing, finances, even cleaning the academy. At some point, we were doing all of it, Heidi. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Like, we realized, like, something has to change. I knew that I had been able to accomplish a lot. Our school was featured in PBS twice as, a national spotlight, and our students were winning scholarships, going to universities, and all these amazing accomplishments. I felt that I had kind of reached my limit in terms of the way I was working. And I knew I needed another challenge, something else to be able to apply all of these things that I had learned over these last 5 years and transfer them somehow to create even more impact. So I applied for the position that was opened at the University of North Texas. They wanted someone to kind of help build a music business program and transfer this knowledge to musicians who were also finishing their degrees and trying to figure out what's next. So I
Hmm.
decided to take that position. But when I did, when they appointed me director of this position, we had to restructure our school so it would continue running without us there. And that was a learning experience in and of itself. Most of our mentors thought we were nuts to just walk away and leave our business and move to another part of the country. They didn't think the business was going to make it without us there. And after the first year of us doing that, we actually learned how to manage the business better than when we were there because we had to, like we had no choice, right? Just like the
Mm.
first time we had to learn to survive in the business and to make it like profitable and sustainable. Now we had to be able to do it at a distance. And when we did that after the first year of like ups and downs, and we cracked the code of how to run a business on autopilot, that became my obsession in the work I was doing with musicians. Not only did I want to help them learn how to build businesses and create prosperity in their lives, but I also wanted them not to have to sacrifice their quality of life in the process. So my obsession since then, back in 2016, it's been now 7 years, right, has been really about helping musicians build music businesses and scale their businesses in a way that doesn't depend on them having to be there all the time, doing all the things. So after 5 years of building and growing and developing the university program, I actually decided I wanted to do this around the world. I wanted to
Mhm.
spread this information and impact musicians, not only within the context of academia, but also everywhere else in the world. So I actually took a step back and I started this process while I was still full-time working in the university. And within 6 months, just as I started my first online program and decided, I need to not only have my side as an entrepreneur with my music school or my side as a university educator or my side as a concert pianist, but I want to put it all together. I want to unify my
Mm.
brand and build an umbrella around everything I've done and just create that as an online base and share with the world, like, here's who I am. This is how, like, this is what I want to help people do. I'm
Mm.
here to serve and I want to make a difference in musicians' lives through the collective experience I've gathered up until this point. That's when I decided this is the way. So I built an online business. I created this online brand. I unified everything I'd been doing in my life up until that point. And within 6 months, I was able to go from 0 to 6 figures. For the first time in my life, I realized, oh my gosh, this is what actually, not only is it simpler, but it also more profitable. And I get to work on my own. I have complete autonomy of my time. I am no longer associating my income to my physical being someplace at some time,
Mm.
and having that constraint, right? All of a sudden, I realized I can package my skills, I can unite everything I do, and create a product, so to speak, from my knowledge, productize my knowledge, and help people through, guidance in that, but more in a group setting so people can benefit from my experience. They can access my knowledge, they can access my brain, so to speak, but I don't have to be there every step of the way in the process. So if before I knew about creating a business on autopilot, coming from my brick and mortar experience, now doing it in the online space amplified it even more.
Hmm.
Because I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the way musicians can do this. You can create income. You don't have to be giving away all your time anymore. And you make more money. And it's actually more like free. I can now take time and, go in the middle of my day. And if I want to spend time with my son's field trips, I can do it. Nothing stops. If I
Mm.
need to take a step back, spring break is coming in a few weeks. We're going to rent an RV and drive all the way to Florida, spend 9 days traveling. My business keeps going. Like my business does not depend on me all the time. It
Hmm.
can continue growing and not only going, but growing without me. You see what I mean? So that is my obsession now and like passion. What I love helping musicians do is like building online businesses by simplifying who they are, defining their brand, and then being able to create it on autopilot.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited because I have like 10 follow-up questions running through my brain right now. So going back to the brick and mortar, I know a lot of 360ers are right there trying to recruit, trying to bring new students into their flute studio. Is there one piece of advice that you would offer them as they are transitioning from working for a company and they want to start working for themselves and they really want to start recruiting and bringing in and building their flute studio? Because I think a lot of times people have a hard time leaving the 9 to 5. They know that they are a teacher by heart. They can see themselves working with students one on one, but recruiting and building up that studio takes time. And I love your story of how you and your husband went all in. You're like, all right, we're going to invest. You were baptized by fire and you had to just figure it out. So that's the question I want to ask you, because I know a lot of 360ers are at that place where they're noticing, maybe because of the pandemic, maybe because of the industry shifts and the inflation, who knows, there's probably different factors. Recruiting students feels harder than ever before. And so I want your advice in this arena.
Thank you. Yes. Heidi, I am so passionate right now in helping musicians remove themselves from the one-to-one model that I'll go
Oh,
straight to the case right now. I believe musicians should not be limited by time in the way they work,
okay.
whether it's through one-to-one teaching, whether it's through performing. And I'm not saying they shouldn't do it.
Okay.
Note this caveat. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. I'm saying they shouldn't build their income dependent on it. So, what does this mean? If you find a way to create a way to teach online, to monetize your skills, and to be able to serve through your knowledge versus your time, then you can do whatever you want in terms of like teaching in person or performing, traveling, getting on stage. Like I still do that. I'm still an active performer, but my income doesn't depend on that. Does that make sense? So when
Yes.
you think about building your business, and it's hard disconnect for most music teachers because this is their identity. That's what they know. That's what they're familiar with all their life. They're like, "What do you mean not teaching one-on-one? What do you mean not meeting with my students?" And like, what are you talking about? Here's what I'm talking about. The more you are linked to have to be someplace at some time for you to make money, the more capped your income will be.
Yep.
It does not matter, Heidi, if you charge $1,000 an hour. That is not the point. The point is you should not be working per hour, period. Now, if
Mm,
you want to create an income stream, build your online way to serve and have a way to not have this relationship, then you want to have some elite, maybe a handful of clients that you decide, you know what, I'm okay working with them per hour, so to speak, because I just love them and they're like my favorite students and I just want to keep this relationship. All the power to you. But building your business dependent on that model, that's where I'm saying don't do it.
okay.
Don't do it. Because here's the thing, it's so much easier for you to say, I have these experiences, I have this knowledge, I can solve this problem, so to speak, for a specific type of client. And you can package that, you can create trainings, record that knowledge, and
Mm,
then give access to your brain to people. Let them access you once a week or maybe twice a week in a group setting where you show up and you give them your ideas and your guidance. And even if you have different levels of students, you may be saying, well, what about beginners versus advanced? That's all good. Or you can have two groups. You can have one group that meets at 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week, and then another group that meets for 1 or 2 hours. But what you're doing is you're essentially bringing down your weekly load. Let's say you have 30 students a week that you teach. You bring that down to like 4 hours a week of work. Think about that. You're
yeah.
bringing down 30 hours a week of work to 4 hours of work,
Mm,
at least as it relates to teaching. And why is that important? Because in order for you to grow your business, you cannot be teaching all day long. You cannot grow if you're just teaching all day long. So, and the idea isn't necessarily to say, well, I'm just going to hire other teachers and have them teach for me necessarily, because you're still perpetuating, let's say, that model in a sense. and you're still going to have to manage them. Or even if you outsource that and you're not managing anymore, there's still the constraint of the model in and of itself. So whether it's you teaching one-to-one or someone you hire teaching one-to-one, I am a fan in completely disrupting the model that musicians are used to and
Mm,
saying, how can I find a way to make money that doesn't depend on my time?
mm,
You know what I mean? That's my number one advice. I know most music teachers think, oh, I've got 20 students right now. If I can only get 40, then I'm going to be at my financial goal. Then I'm going to feel happy. And they don't realize what they're doing is they're going further and further down the hole by aspiring to give more of their time away. Now, if you tell me I can get 40 students and I'm actually working 10 hours instead of 20 a week, then I say, yes, that's the way to go.
okay.
You see? So I'm not saying don't get more students. I'm just saying don't give more of your time away in the pursuit of getting more students. Find a way to get more students while also working less hours. And how do you do that? By working in an online way where people can access your knowledge and then they can access you as a guide, as an implementer, as a mentor. For
Mm.
as they're implementing the knowledge you're giving them, they have you there to kind of personalize it and customize it. Does that make sense?
Are you a flutist frustrated that your instrument doesn't accurately represent your artistic voice? We hear you. Not owning an instrument that will showcase your musical abilities and let your creative voice shine through can be frustrating. Let us help you change that. At the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company, we have a team of flute specialists who have been working in the industry for decades, and they have the knowledge and the skill to help you find your dream instrument. They have a wide selection of piccolos, flutes, low flutes, and head joints to match your creative needs. To help you find your perfect instrument, call the Flute Shop at 972 985 2662 to schedule your flute trial today. Or visit their website at fluteforyou.com, where you can check out their instrument selection online. Follow the Flute Store through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter for the latest news and updates. The Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is truly your one-stop flute shop. Oh, completely. Yes. And I'm so glad you brought that up. And it's a great disruption. You said, I want to disrupt this way of thinking. And what I hear you say and what you're advocating is that you don't want to see musicians burn out. And that's exactly where I was before my doctorate. I was teaching 50 to 60 flute students in the Fort Worth area for 6 years. Oh my goodness, while running Texas Flute Society, while teaching community college in the evening. And I was like, this is not sustainable. I cannot do this. 16-hour days? Oh my goodness. So that's why I pivoted to go and get my doctorate in pursuit of the academic route. Life had a different plan in store. I did not know that, but it's all for the better. But I know where you are, and I hear that loving, encouraging words and saying, that's great, if you're a flute teacher and you want to expand your studio, but if you are exchanging time for money, then you're going to be capped. And there's a problem with that.
That is my number one message, Heidi. There's nothing more important that I could say in this interview than that, honestly.
Okay.
That
Okay.
is the most, if there's one thing I want your listeners to take away and just question themselves, is like, am I aiming at the right target here?
Ooh.
Is my goal the right one? Or perhaps I should shift my goals, because if what you want is to just get more students, maybe raise your rates and just grow your studio that way, it may feel like you're growing and progressing, but you're not. You're really,
Mm,
you can go so much faster and so much quicker and so much easier if you
mm,
simply disconnect your dependency on time.
mm. I love that. So as your business is growing, going back to the brick and mortar, as your business is growing and you and your husband are pivoting and realizing, you know what, we need to get this business working on autopilot without necessarily our hands on it 24/7. What was the number one lesson that you took from that experience?
The number one lesson is the process of growing a business is going to require us to become leaders and to learn how to create systems and to delegate what we do.
I
And
was
that's not
wondering
an
if
easy
that
thing.
was going to be a part of your answer, the delegation,
It's
letting
not
go.
easy. It's a skill,
Oh,
Heidi. It's
yeah.
not. I know we talk about, oh, here's so and so, and they're a natural born leader. Like you may have heard that, right? Oh, yeah, so and so is a natural leader. Yes, there are people that have more inclination, perhaps more facility, but it's also a skill. And when you are really serious about scaling your business and growing it to a place where it's not going to depend on you, you need to learn to lead others into doing things for you and to release control and perfectionism.
Hmm.
And this is something that we've done back and forth in this process. And it takes like courage to see people make mistakes and for you to take ownership of those mistakes and say, you know what? I know you messed up. And it's also because I didn't like clearly explain to you what you needed to do. I didn't set out the structures. And I'm also like here to take responsibility over your failures versus hiring people, trying for them to work out. And whenever they mess up, saying, oh, this person can't do the job. Never mind. Let me just go back and do it all myself. So
Mm.
many musicians I talked to, they're like, oh, yeah, I tried hiring someone, but it didn't work out. So I just went and I'm doing it all myself again because people are terrible. They just don't do it. Like, no one can do it like me, you know? And although I understand as an owner, of course, but you won't grow. You won't be able to build the systems and lead others if you are not committing to learning how to lead. To learning how to lead, as much as we learn how to play our instruments, you have to commit to say, how can I become a good leader? How can I embrace this mission of being the visionary for my company and being okay with letting others do things that I should not be doing? And it's not because you can't. Let me tell you, most of my clients, they're really like quick learners. They can learn anything. They can do whatever they want. And because they can do that, they feel they should. And so a lot of what I find myself doing is like, yes, I'm glad that you learn how to do all this video editing and web design and all these things you feel that are important for your business. Now it's time to let someone take that off your plate and let's get you focusing on the vision, on the brand, on the creativity, and all the things, the strategy, because you should not be editing videos right now for your business. That's not what you should do,
Mm.
right? But it's hard. And I totally understand the resistance that many musicians have because they learn and they're like, I can do this. Yes, but that doesn't mean you should.
Mm.
You know what I
Do
mean?
you Yeah, exactly, and I'm thinking like a normal musician and just knowing how they function, and I can imagine that your music clients have a really hard time letting go,
Mhm,
because us musicians, again, we're very hands-on, we are
mhm,
very action takers, and we wanna do all the things.
mhm,
And you keyed in on a word too, perfectionism.
mhm,
We are notorious for getting things right.
mhm,
And I can imagine that letting go and delegating is something that is hard at first. But I
mhm.
love how you mentioned that it's a skill.
It
You can
is. Oh my
you can
gosh.
hone it and you can practice it and get better at saying, okay. And I would think a huge part of delegation would be the training aspect.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as I said, the hardest part, Heidi, is ownership of the results of your team,
Okay.
not seeing them struggle and maybe fall short of your expectations and saying, oh, this person can't, like, this was a bad idea. Like this person shouldn't be in my team. I should just let them go. But
Mhm.
instead committing to coaching your team to say, you know what, it's my responsibility to help this team member succeed. And I'm going to do everything that I can to be clear in how I lead, to be clear in the expectations, and to be clear in holding them accountable to the expectations, which is also something that we have to learn. Because sometimes we want to avoid the difficult conversations when people are falling short and us just like turning the other aside and like, I'm not going to bring this up. I don't want this person to, and feeling uncomfortable. Sometimes it's important to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations and to set things straight and be clear and, firm with our team so they know what we're expecting of them, but they also know that we're going to do everything in our side to help them succeed at that expectation because
Ooh,
we are responsible for their success as much as they are.
ooh, I love that. Yes. The next question that I have, I know it's a blanketed one, so I apologize. The hiring process, when do you hire? When do you decide, hey, I need to bring somebody on to take care of these tasks?
Oh, from day one, Heidi. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Okay.
If I could do it all over again,
Yeah.
I would start from day one getting people to help me.
Okay.
That's often a common misconception that I see musicians come to a lot. They say, well, I can't hire someone until I start making money.
Yep.
I can't do this until this. I can't do this until this. And the truth is, you need to be having this idea of investing in yourself, investing in your business, and investing in getting the support and the skills that you need to grow. Because without that, you will grow much slower. I'm not going to say you can't.
Mm.
I went from 0 to 6 figures, 100% on my own in my business when I started the online program. I did have guidance, I did have mentorship, I did have access to the skills, but I did not have anyone helping me in my team taking any of the action. I did it all myself. And I know that if instead of doing that and reaching a point of burnout, which I did after I reached my first 6 months and I got to the 6 figure mark, so like, okay, this is amazing. However, this is not sustainable. I can't do it all myself. I got to go back to what I learned in my first business and start building a team around me and start creating the systems and start delegating more so that I can grow without me having to do it all. Right.
Okay.
And that's also partly why I decided to quit my full-time university job within a year of doing both things, because I knew that I needed to focus on growing as a leader to getting my business to grow and to work without me. It wasn't going to happen if I wasn't willing to go all in and to really focus on leading my team and leading my business the way I needed to. Right.
Okay.
And although it was terrifying to step out of that, secure university job, or
Mm.
quote unquote secure. I don't know if you get to see my video now that I'm putting quotes with my fingers, but the idea was, it's not really secure if I'm capping my potential, if I'm just depending on a salary and earning incremental 3%, what is it, increases year after year that are not going to get me anywhere in my financial goals. How secure is that really,
Mm.
So I decided to take a leap of faith, go all in my business, and then commit to becoming the best leader that I could for my team, and eventually for my clients too. Because as the more I grew as a leader, the more I can transfer that experience to them. And when they come in and they hire their first team members, which I ask them to do right off the bat, because I believe in learning what you need to learn. And some of these things, as building an online business, like I'm actually a little bit of a disruptor in the sense that while a lot of what you see online is about learn how to do this, learn how to do that. We'll teach you how to build a funnel. We'll teach you how to use Canvas. We'll teach you how to write your emails and do all these things. I tell my clients, you don't need to know any of that. You need to figure out enough of what this is about so that you can have someone do it. And you need to focus on the most profit producing activities, right?
Mm.
So I don't believe we need to learn all those things. I don't do any of that now in my business. And the more I tried to do all of that, the less I was able to grow. And the more I
Okay.
was getting myself to a point of burnout. Right. So I know now that if I were to do it all over again, from day one, I would have hired an assistant, even if it's just 10 hours a week.
Okay.
Right. But someone that I could say, can you help me do this so that I do that? Can you do this so that I do that? And even if you have no idea what to get them to do, which a
Mm.
lot of, we start there. Like at the beginning is like, yeah, but what would I do with an assistant? How would I decide what to delegate, what not to delegate? Do not worry. Just having someone that is depending on you giving them instruction is going to develop that muscle and that pressure to have to come up with a way to delegate. You see, when you don't have someone, you're just going to do it yourself because it's so much easier. But when you
Mm.
know you're committing, I don't know, 5, 10 hours a week initially to someone who's waiting for you to give them direction, you will come up with ideas to give them because that
Mm.
person isn't waiting for you. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Oh, completely.
So start from day one, even if it's just someone, or you don't have to hire someone. Maybe you can have a college age kid help you, or an intern, or someone from the beginning. That's my number one recommendation. Do not wait for XYZ milestone before you can get support. Things do not have to be
Mm.
the hard way. We can make things easier for ourselves.
Mm. And that's what I was going to ask you, but you already answered the question. Can you hire an intern?
Mhm.
So, would you just reach out to a local university or college? And because I know those college age students, they need to
Absolutely.
rack up hours for like
Absolutely.
scholarships and grants and things like that.
I have interns working in my company as well as full-time employees, as well as contractors. I have the whole 9 yards,
Wow.
you know? So I believe in getting help from anywhere that you can. But the
Mm.
idea is to recognize that it's not because you're incapable of doing things. You don't have nothing to prove. Like you've made it this far,
Mm.
good for you. Now, if you want to grow, you can't keep doing the same things the way you've done them all your life because you won't grow at the pace you should. right? What got you here won't get you there. So learning how to lead is a skill that's going to allow you to grow, and forcing yourself to become a leader and to guide someone into doing things for you is one of the best skills you can develop in the process of simplifying your life. Whether or not you want to build an online business, Heidi, this does not matter. It's just the idea of like, you have nothing to prove. Like, you're amazing. You have nothing to prove. Don't put so much pressure on yourself to do everything yourself. You
Yeah.
know, it's okay to get help. That's kind of where I'm going here. It's okay.
No, that's wonderful. That's such great advice. And circling back to you leaving that secure, and I'm using air quotes, secure university position, is that the advice that you were kind of telling yourself during that season? Like, I can only imagine, and I don't know, I don't want to assume, but like you said, leaving something that we see as secure in the moment can be hard to let go. Like, okay, this is a great title, this is a great salary, but you had highlighted this before, it still was limiting you to be that leader that you wanted to be. Did you seek out help, or was it a lot of really good self-talk for you to pivot and say, hey, you know what? I have to say goodbye to this position. Was that easy? Was that hard? Did you get advice from outside sources? Walk me through that process.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting, Heidi, because you know what? The truth is, I did not realize how burned out I was
Okay.
until I quit.
Oh,
I
okay.
I just knew that it was not sustainable, and I knew what I had seen that I had exceeded my full-time university salary for the entire year in just 3 months of building my business. Like, I started the business, I launched my first offer, and I exceeded my salary in like 120%, right? With my first launch. And I made six figures in 6 months. Actually, I say 6 months, but it's actually like more than 3 months, really,
Hmm.
because I launched it, and I started getting clients, and then I launched a group program, and I did like a masterclass. And in about 3 to 4 months, I had made six figures already.
Hmm.
And so, as you know, the academic salaries are usually way below that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized I could make more money working less hours,
Mm.
you know. And even though it felt riskier, if I did it once, I knew I could do it again, and I could
Hmm.
grow better and do it more if I really focused on it. So I surrounded myself by mentorship, by guidance, and I put myself in the room with musicians, with entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, musicians who were all doing this already
Okay.
and full time, not depending on any crutch, so to speak, any additional job, because they went all in. And the more all in they were, the bigger their businesses were. So I knew that this
Hmm.
was possible. And even though my current reality had given me some indications, I recognized that what brought me here was not going to take me there. And if I was going to try to grow while holding on to other things, it was going to limit my growth. Once again, I tried to simplify, right? I said, I don't have to do all the things.
Hmm.
I need to focus on one thing and do it right and be focused all in on it. And so that's when I decided, I'm going to just step out of this job, submit my resignation, and just see what happens. But by the time I did it, it's not like my business at that time was booming. It was growing so much. Oh my gosh, I was making all this money. So finally, I let go of my university. I had a successful launch. Yes, I had a
Mm-hmm.
successful start, but within a year, my business was still kind of an up and down. And I was testing new things. I was raising my rates. I was pushing myself and testing better ways to continue making my program sustainable. And at the time I quit my job, I had only 3 clients, Heidi.
Okay.
So it's not like it was like, oh, this security thing. No, I was really taking a leap of faith.
Okay.
And I just said, unless I go all in and really focus on what I want versus on what I think I need, but on the vision that is there in my future, I'm not ever going to really make it happen. And when I quit my
Mm.
job, I sent my letter of resignation. I remember the next day, I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to have a calendar that you can control, that is on me, where I don't have to see all these things that are like not necessarily what I want to be, faculty meetings, all these things that I just trainings, all these things that I had to do because my job did, like asked me to do. All of a sudden, to feel this control over your calendar where you have 100% say in what gets to get on your calendar, it felt so liberating. And I just felt, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have all this freedom. I literally felt like I had dropped 100 pounds or something. Like I'd left this weight off my shoulders.
Hmm.
But I had all of this freedom and lightness in my day. and ability to create and to think and to strategize on what I want to do next, and it just felt so incredible. And only then did I realize how much pressure I had on myself. I was
Hmm.
almost like swimming underwater. And you know how you kind of get used to it at some point? But the truth is, there was pressure on my life. But I would have never realized how much pressure it felt until I let it go. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Because you get
Oh,
used to it's almost like when you're walking up a mountain, you start, carrying stones in your backpack. You just get used to it and it becomes the new normal. And then more stones, and then you just kind of it becomes the normal. And all of a sudden, if you take that backpack off your back, you're like, whoa, this is what it like. I can't believe how light I feel. That's what I felt after I quit my job. You know what I mean?
oh my gosh. Yes. To all of that. I love the analogies. When you're describing going all in, the analogy that came to my mind, I'm such a visual person, is this person, at the edge of a pool and they're dipping their big toe in and they're just like, oh, okay, I'm doing this much in my business. I'm getting my big toe wet. But what I'm hearing you say is in order for you to really reap the benefits, in order for you to really, yeah, exactly, reap the benefits of this business life and your vision and your goal for your life, you can't just dip your toe. You got to go all in. And I just imagined instead of that big toe, just like, tapping the surface, just again, going into the deep section and just plunging in.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I heard your transition of saying, you know what? I can't toy around with this anymore with this business. Like I can't be a university professor here and try to grow my business at the same time. It just doesn't work. So what I'm hearing you say is you have to take that leap of faith and go into the deep end. And by doing that, you learn how to swim.
Absolutely, Heidi. I love how you say that. And the truth is, I was doing it all, but I was paying a price in my quality of life. I was burned out. I wasn't being able to be present enough for my family. And I realized that is not the version of myself that I want to move into the next stage of my life, right? I want to be able to
Oh,
have it all and really be able to create a thriving career and be present as a mother with my two boys and as a wife and have my artistry, continue practicing, performing, take care of myself physically. And so I knew that, when you say yes to things, you say no to other things. So
mm,
I had to decide, what am I going to say yes to in my life?
mm,
What am I going to say no to? And that was really what it came down to. And I decided to say yes to building a life where I could strive for this more balanced lifestyle, right? And I say
mm,
strive because I don't believe that this is something you just make it at some point. I believe I am still in this process. I'm still in this journey of striving for balance, but I know that I'm putting things in place in order to get there better and better each year. You know,
mm,
I'm now hiring someone who's going to be taking calls for me and being able to ultimately, make the final sale with my clients where before it was me. And so now I can literally plan on going out and traveling for a week with my family. And my business is actually going to continue to grow and enroll clients, and I'm not even going to be there. Think
mm.
about that. Like, that's crazy. It's like,
Yeah.
but I had to get to that point in order to learn how to lead these people and get enough opportunity for them to be able to do this as well. And so everything takes time and it takes a step-by-step process. But as long as you focus on the vision of what you want to create, you will get there, especially if you commit to learning the skills that you need to build the life that you want. But my final message to your audience here is, do not settle in your life. Do not let your current reality define your future. Because things are not working with you for you right now, if they're not, that does not mean they cannot dramatically change in the future. And
Hmm.
not settling for like, oh, well, I guess I can have a little better reality. No, I want to encourage all of your listeners to go for their dreams and really create a completely alternate reality and go back
Hmm.
from that vision of like, what do you want your life to look like? And how
Hmm.
can you reverse engineer those goals? Take the action steps and be brave and not settling. Don't let your current circumstances dictate what's possible for you in the future, kind of, is what I'm saying. And what stops many people from succeeding is they let their present define their future. You know
Ooh.
what I mean? So that's my biggest message as well.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for that. Wonderfully said. And I learned so much from you. I wish I could sit down and talk to you for a whole nother hour, but I need to be respectful of your time so you can go off and eat lunch. And by the way, your family is so beautiful. I love
Oh,
seeing
thank
pictures
you.
of your two sons. They are gorgeous.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Heidi. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you. And it's been wonderful connecting with you. And congratulations on everything you do for the online community, Flute and beyond. I mean, we would not be here if we wouldn't have innovators and disruptors such as yourself sharing the message of what's possible and creating change as well in the online space for musicians. So I'm so grateful also to get to know you and to see all of the contributions that you're sharing through your podcast, through your online programs, through all the things that you're doing. I mean, you are an example of everything that I just discussed, right? You are the very model of everything I shared.
Mm.
So thank you so much for leading the way in that way as well.
Oh, thank you, Fabiana. Thank you for listening to today's conversation with the phenomenal Dr. Fabiana Claure. If you want to check out her content, make sure you follow her through social media via Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. She also has a fantastic YouTube channel that I love checking out from time to time as well. Last but not least, if you want to be a part of the Flute 360 family group, all you have to do is click the link below in the show notes, and I would love to accept you into the group. This community comes together and we talk about pain points, hurdles, wins, and we support each other through our flute journey. Go to Facebook and type in Flute 360 family, and I will accept your request. Thank you so much. Let's talk about flute.